So many fragrances are coming out, but we need to know whether or not these got better or if they're still worth it. Fakhar and Fakhar Gold.
Here's some codes to save you some cash on your next Middle Eastern niche or designer fragrances.
What's going on, guys? My name is Neeb. Welcome back to AROMATIX. I didn't say what you thought I said, okay? Leave her alone. But Fakhar is what we're gonna be talking. Well, I mean, I guess you could do that. There's another, as long as it's consensual. But this is the black and this is the gold, both by Lattafa. So these came out earlier on in, I believe it might have been late 20. Man, I'm losing track of time. But this came out a while ago. Okay, let's just say about 2 years ago. And initially at its time, it was a really good fragrance, man. This was one of the first YEDP inspos on the market. And it took the market by storm because it offered you something for under $30 that gets that close, that's mass appealing, that is an easy gift, and it just works, okay? So what do I think about this fragrance, and is it still worth it to this day? Well, long story short is yes, and also it's depending on what you want out of the fragrance, and it's also depending on the scent profile. So this video, I think, is of value in terms of like how well they got, did they mature, did they change, which is actually a real thing. So in the concoction of alcohol and oils, believe it or not, as they sit, the longer they sit in these bottles, the stronger they get. For that to happen, you first have to get your new bottle and spray it a couple times. Spray it a bunch of times, and what ends up happening is some oxygen gets into the bottle, also cramming the space between the alcohol and the oils, and they start to disperse a little bit more evenly. Next time you spray it after a couple of months, so obviously this happens on a very molecular level, you're gonna get a stronger seeming style fragrance, basically, okay? Generally speaking, that usually happens with more quality style fragrances that you're gonna pay a little bit higher prices for, and it's not necessarily because these are not good fragrances, but obviously the oil qualities that you're gonna get in these are a little bit lower, hence giving you the affordability, okay? In terms of safety wise though, they are regulated. They should be regulated still by IFRA, and Dubai is not a third world country. I've said this a couple of times, and if you're interested in that, search my videos. I do have a video in regards to or talking about exactly that. So back to the scent profile, this smells a lot like YSL YEDP, and that in itself is a very successful fragrance for many good reasons. In fact, it has to be one of my top 10 designer fragrances because of exactly that. We've got apple, ginger, sage, there's some geranium. It's a masculine, fresh, slightly sweetened shower gel type of scent that you could literally wear everywhere. There's not a single person that can dislike that fragrance. It just smells too good. And if you don't like fragrance, then okay, sure, you can have that argument. Nevertheless, this was spawned because of that very successful DNA. So initially with this fragrance, you're gonna get a little bit of alcohol. So this is when fragrances from this, realm of or parts of the world in Dubai for the prices initially had some traction and started giving us more quality. But it was still in the time that you're gonna get a few or just a little bit of more alcohol. The actual atomizer on it is not that bad. The design is actually pretty cool, except for the fact that the cap comes off very easily. For under 25 bucks, I feel like your arguments kind of drop a little bit because it's like, really? Yeah, tell me more, please. How much did you pay? 20, yeah, tell me more. Yeah, no. Anyways, this is a really good smelling fragrance. You're gonna get this geranium, the rosy aromatic sage that's sweet and almost like this crunchy sugar. Think of those rock sugar candies on a stick. I get that vibe with a lot more. Aromatics, tea vibes, very, very mass appealing. Is this still worth it? I would say hell yeah, it's still worth it genuinely because of the fact that the prices have actually come down too. So $25, $20, it's absolutely worth it. Are there other alternatives to this exact scent profile? Yes, plenty. And the best thing that you could do is subscribe so you can catch my Clone War on YEDP DNA, and you'll find out exactly which ones smell like what, how long they last, and which one actually does it the better, gets closer, and which is the most enjoyable. So we cover all aspects, but for today, we're gonna focus on whether or not this is actually worth it. And long story short is, yeah, it is still worth it. Has it gotten any stronger? Honestly, mine from the beginning was already strong. I spray my fragrances on anywhere from 6 to 14 times. Yes, genuinely. And this is one where I'm extremely comfortable spraying it on 8 times. If you don't get noticed, if you don't get compliments, then you should probably try a new method. And mine works almost all the time. I'm not saying this for any reason other than to give you my honest experience and personal experience, basically. I've always sprayed it no less than 6 times, any fragrance almost, except for really beastly fragrances. And I can honest to God count on 2 hands how many bad comments I got. And generally speaking, for the most part, it's when I wore it to lesser appropriate places like the workplace, which also ended up having someone who has allergies to fragrance in itself. Other than that, That's what's worked for me almost always. And I get a compliment, I would say probably out of 7 days in a week, 3 to 4 days out of the week. Genuinely, I have no reason to exaggerate that, but that's, and plus, I mean, they know me as the fragrance guy. Even before I did this cologne review channel, they always knew me for the guy who wore fragrance, and my personality, I'm pretty outgoing in general. This is who I am. What you guys see is who I am. So this has worked. It got me compliments. It's lasted 8 hours plus easily. Projection was really good. So it's been quite some time. It's still performing. It's still performing, and it smells really good. This is like a stocking stuffer fragrance. You could easily gift this to literally anyone, and it would work as well. Sheikh Hashiyukh Final Edition. There's also Malik al-Tuyur, or maybe a couple that you haven't heard of, and I promise we'll be talking about that in the very near future in that Clone War. Moving on to the next one. This is Fakhar Gold. Instead of just telling you guys whether or not this is still worth it and not talking about their other version, I feel like this would be a good time to talk about it. This is also one that lasted 8+ hours. In fact, you'll be able to smell this a little bit longer than the black one. So I initially picked this up on my way to work. I got it as a package, went for a night shift at the hospital, and I kept spraying this on and saying, I remember this, like this smells familiar. It smells like a bubblegummy DNA with tuberose, white florals, and a little bit of a salticord. In fact, it ends up being close, very close to 1 million parfum. So although a lot of these bubblegummy men's fragrances nowadays are actually coming into style or, you know, being appreciated with those white florals, like YSL Myself, 1 Million Royal, Parfum actually did that style DNA before all of those, except it still wasn't really accepted that well. The white tuberose is a little bit salty, white floral and soft, taking things a bit fresher than the typical 1 Million DNA. And honestly, I liked it and I enjoyed it, and it was more appropriate for the spring and summertime, giving a softness to that whole DNA. People were still kind of confused as to whether or not men can wear florals, and nowadays with the surge of guys getting into niche perfumery, even as young as freaking 12 to 14, they're now getting their noses on fragrances that do have unisex aspects and actually appreciating it, going back to these style DNAs. So this did it before it was popular, and so did this. This smells a lot like that tuberose salty bubblegummy accord. It actually smells really good. So is this still worth it? Absolutely. This, in fact, did get stronger as well. So there's another fragrance that this reminds me of actually, and I might as well grab it.
2 hours later.
This is called Cayenne Gold, and we're not really going to do much of a versus, but I will tell you right now that they actually get pretty dang close, and what it comes down to is which bottle design you like more, and I still have to do some more thorough in testing. I didn't really do a comparison between these two because they were the only ones that were in the market that kind of, you know, contested with each other, but let me know down in the comment section if you would be interested in that video, Cayenne Gold versus Fakhar Gold, and if I get enough comments, then I'll do that video. But for now, let's go back to this one. This honestly seems like it's just shy of designer quality. The quality in this one does shine a little bit more than Fakhar Black, and it initially came out as a flanker because of its success, the Fakhar Black. Why not do a gold? Sure, the scent profile is not related, but I would argue that it is kind of related. Not in a sense that they're close, but in a sense that they kind of achieve a similar thing. Smells fresh, smells clean, this one being a little bit more floral and slightly sweetened, and that's pretty much it. So basically, are these still worth it? Yeah, I would say that they're still worth it. And to give you guys a little bit more value before you go out there and buy this is by the same company. It's called Sheikh Hashiyukh Silver Final Edition. Basically look up Lattafa's Final Edition. These two are very close in price points, and before we do the Clone War, I'll give you a little piece of information that this, in fact, gets more of the mid to dry down of YSLY, and it seems like it lasts a little bit longer. However, this seems like a little bit more of a nuke in terms of projection, not necessarily in total longevity. So if you want like the top to mid, the mass appealing factors of it, you're gonna be okay with this. But if you want the more subtle, sweet, and still projecting but longer lasting, then Final Edition would be the one to go with. My preference and how well it stacks up and all of that good stuff, you'll find out in that Clone War. I hope this answered any questions you might have had out there, and if it did, show me by leaving a like, hit that subscribe button, and let me know down in the comment section if you are interested in that comparison, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.